There you go. Should we do a dental exam?
All right, call them. So just, yeah, that's good. So just always just be aware of it. Oh, do you want to ask Barry about that?
So it should just be battery.
No. So do you want to get it? Ask him to change the battery?
Is it blinking?
That's a much more convenient way of putting out a light than I had to use when I was in the TV business.
Mm-hmm, you've done this.
Does this look like it's
Not
blinking?
this really, commercials and
yeah, flickering.
Not the subject so much.
no,
We've had
shooting shelves full of yarn and thread and things like that. People selling tires. We used to have to roll a great big tire all over town, and it looked like it was rolling around by itself. It was really cutting edge advertising for Market 199.
good to go.
So, well, yeah. How did you get your start in music?
Ooh. We had music in the house all the time when I was growing up. Mom and Dad were teenagers in the big band era, so we had a lot of that music in the house. I remember the first thing they played for me that they told me what it was, and it was Benny Goodman's Carnegie Hall concert from 1938. And Mom made a point of telling me that he hit this high A above high C, and nobody had ever done that before. And she knew Harry James and Lionel Hampton and all those people, and I loved music, and I had rhythm, but I didn't understand that wasn't something that everybody had. You know? And so I never really gave it much thought, and I kind of played bongos and stuff informally. I backed a girl up in an 8th grade talent show on a conga drum while she was singing some Broadway tune. It was a kind of a Latin thing, just her and me, her and I, she and I. Anyway, a couple talent shows in high school, and then I went off to the Navy. Met a couple guys in my division that played guitar. I bought a cheap little portable record player with 3 Ventures albums off a guy who needed $5 to go on the beach. So we started learning those songs, and we had a little 3-piece band with no bass player, and I just played a cardboard box with drumsticks. And one night we were out in a bar in Sasebo, Japan, and there was a stage with musical instruments on there. Nobody was playing, so we got up and played for beers. You'll get access to the photograph that was taken that night. And that was the first time I ever really played in front of people on a drum set, and I didn't know what to do with any of the bottom end of it. Came back to California afterwards. Had a couple of shitty jobs. My sister convinced me to go to one of Bob Eubank's Cinnamon Cinder teen nightclubs that he had 3 of in Southern California. And it was a really good band there. First really solid 5-piece band with 2 guitars, bass, drums, and sax. I used to be a good dancer in those days. I used to win money in dance contests. Eventually I got a job there. So that meant I had to be there in the afternoons to sweep up and clean the shit houses and all that. And the band would be in rehearsing a couple days a week. The drummer had an afternoon job he didn't get off until 5, so he wasn't there. And through other nights previously, they'd allowed bunches of us to get up on stage, and we'd sing 9-part harmony to I Should Have Known Better, the Beatles and stuff like that. So they kind of knew I had a sense of rhythm, and I was able to retain stuff in songs that I heard, so I could hum guitar solos for them when they were like, no, it's not that way, it's this. I said, well, why don't you help us out and sit down and play a little bit? So I kind of tippy-tapped around. A year later, the drummer's wife made him quit, or there was some sort of a conflict, so he gave it up. They called me to come to work for them 5 nights a week, Easter Sunday, 1965, and it was on. I pretty much learned how to play drums on the job. I never left the road for about 3 years. Didn't really have an address, and I just kind of joined the party, and here I am.
Well, how did you come to join this party?
Hold on.
The Wackers?
The Wacker party.
Wait 1 second.
Has to be closer apparently. So
You and me and rain on the roof?
Really? That's not good.
Is it dripping?
Yeah. It's not dripping, but it's making noise.
It's making, yeah. Calm, bring it back a little bit. Over. Sorry, to your left. Good.
Because that's
You're
not
good.
enough.
And you don't have to worry about it. You can move as much as you
Okay.
want. So how did you first get introduced to the Wackers?
Well, I worked out of Southern California from 1965 till 1970, and the job I had at the time, the band I was in was Bill Medley's backup band, and we did some touring with him for about 7 months, and he came back to the States, got married, and decided to quit performing for a while. I had nothing going, so I packed my stuff and left Southern California and went to Marin County, where some of my friends from that aforementioned first band had moved. So I was sleeping on people's living room floors and stuff, and I was at Dan Anthony's house one afternoon, waiting for two guys from Orange County to come up, and we were going to start a band and be part of the Northern California Funhouse with the Dead and all those guys. Ring, ring goes the phone. It's Gary Usher on the phone. Hey, Ern, I'm having trouble with this band. Can you come in and help me out? No way, man. You're in L.A. and I'm up here. No, we're over in San Francisco. So I said, well, okay, my car's been repossessed, but I'll see what I can do. And when those two guys from Orange County got there, we threw all my shit in the car, and they drove me to the Wally Heider's studio. I walked in, set up, and sat down, and we played Traveling Time. And after the first day, I think I was probably in, although I took Bob aside at the end of the sessions, and I didn't want to fuck over the other guy really, but man, I really like your music. Can I be in your band? And here I am. That's it in a speed typing there.
And tell us about your time when you were in Wackering Heights, living in the Wacker family circus bubble mansion palladium.
We kind of all did our own things. I had my own room at the time, and Melanie and Cheryl were working on the hallway, scraping the paint off the beautiful curly redwood that was in there, and we kind of just hung out, explored the county, went swimming out in the rivers and so forth. So it wasn't like we were, involved in being the band all the time. We tried one rehearsal to get enough material together to do, play in a bar for 3 or 4 hours, and it didn't work out very well. I don't think we got all pissy with each other, but it just never really went anywhere, and we kind of decided to just go down there and play and let whatever happen. We do enough stuff between the 5 of us to kind of stumble along, and then we developed things like doing our On the Way Up and creating a medley with it by tacking Love the One You're With onto it. Stuff like that. When you do that, I mean, you can knock off 15 minutes without breaking a sweat. Everybody's loaded, so who's watching the clock? And then I met a young lady, and Cooch and I were kind of looking for a place anyway, so I guess we've been there about 3 months, and Cooch and I got a little place in town. And then my girlfriend and I, we went and got another house in another part of town, and that was pretty much it for me at Wackering Heights, except when we'd get together for, like when the On the Way Up movie was made, and events, little parties and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, I had two fatties on the night table for the next morning every day. So that's what it was like. I wish I remembered more specifics, but I know I had a hell of a good time. I had a fun time, and I survived it, more or less.
And can you take us through some of the highlights of the Wackers? Was it 2.5, 3 years that you guys were together?
Well, of course, the trip, which is a saga unto itself. Oh, I think like the first time that we played out in public, we ran up into the Sierra foothills and played in this old hotel on Mount McCallany Hill, and it was like a one-street town, and the hotel was right out of an 1890s western, and we set up in the main room and played for nothing. I think we might have gotten fed. We just did stuff like that, and it was just cool. It was just fun. Way different than being in Southern California. And I'm a little older than everybody else, so I'm like not even a baby boomer. And all my high school graduating, everybody I graduated with, when I go back to the reunions, the only music I hear there is the stuff that was popular while we were in high school. And it's like nobody moved on about any of that stuff. I'm really the weird one in the class. Although I went all the way through the 8th grade with Sam Shepard, who was Steve Rogers at the time, and we were like best buds. We both had a crush on the same girl and stuff like that.
Well, what were the highlights of the cross country, the epic journey?
Wow, they only are highlights in the retelling because they were pretty lowlights at the time they were happening. It was really miserable. I've never been that cold in my life, and you cannot get away from it. It's just there all the time. Hence the sterno. We were wrapping ourselves up in everything we could think of, but it was so cold. You probably heard this, that my girlfriend was cold and wanted a blanket, so I went back and opened the doors of the van to get the blanket. We couldn't close them again because the metal had shrunk so much from the cold. The doors wouldn't latch. So we had to, I think we tried tying them together with a pair of socks. We just really weren't equipped. No chains. We were just, let's go east.
Can you tell us your version of the Leanne Lockwood story?
Oh, I'm actually revamping my version from whatever I hear from everybody else. I don't really know anymore. My recollection is that it was a house on a hill and there were no woods to walk through, no bridge to cross. I went up there and it was pretty much like they said. She was there and she had enough rooms with beds made to give us all. I mean, there were like 10 of us, I think, all told. And she was cooking and she was baking and there was hot coffee on. And then I forgot this happened, but they hauled me out of there because I was the only one old enough to sign for a rental car. So I went out and came back, and it's kind of a fuzzy dream, like a sort of a waking dream, like when you first crack your eyes the first thing in the morning. Wow, I've never been able or asked to examine this stuff so closely. It'll be interesting to read it all. I'll learn a lot, I'm sure.
And tell us what happened leading up to what led to the disbanding of the Wackers.
Oh, just no money, no real support from the label. At that point, we'd done 3 records and they hadn't really done well. We charted day and night at 58 with a bullet at one point, and they told us if we'd gotten one more big radio market, I think it was Atlanta, that probably would have broken it nationally and we would have been off. But it didn't, so we didn't, and we weren't, and we, as yet, still aren't. Household words. But in a few households, apparently.
Does it come up after? Do you get people bring up the Wackers to you now in the post-Wacker world?
Not too much in Humboldt anymore. Most of the people, that came out and saw us in those days, they've all had good had jobs and families and kids and alcoholic episodes and scrapes of the law and the things that happen in small towns. There are a couple guys I run into occasionally that still remember that, and there are a couple people I told. In fact, the guy who I replaced, I sent him an email that this was happening. He didn't answer me yet, but we're friendly. And you know, we hug whenever we see each other. So that's good. I mean, there was really no animosity at all from anyone toward anyone else in this band. There were never ego issues about playing or anything that I saw. You know, sometimes there was abuse snippiness from you know, having too much of the wrong thing, but that's over the next day. It's not real.
And did you keep in touch with any of them?
Loosely, but it was, you know, the farther and farther away we got. We tried to do this back in 2006. Yeah, that's when I got my passport. Yeah, that's the ticket. But there wasn't any money and there wasn't any interest. They couldn't. Bob couldn't roust anybody up in Montreal to, you know, take enough of an interest to even care if we came or not. So it just kind of died. But unfortunately for me, my mom passed away last year, and we had to get out from under the house. So we sold a house and did pretty well, considering the market and all that. So I got a little bit of cash, and one of my dreams since I was in junior high school was to ride the train across a good piece of the country with good accommodations. And so that was the deal, pretty much when I started. Okay, I'll go to Toronto and see Bob, because I've seen Bob the most, you know, since the Wackers did break up. He's been around a little bit more than the others. Randy has been pretty career-driven, you know, wanting to find something, and he did. Good for him. But I had other bands to be in and other stuff to do, and I had issues with alcohol. I was a mess by 1988, so that occupied a lot of my time, and I had to get out from under that. Anyway, yeah, it's like it's just really great to see him. It feels so good. Makes me want to cry. My love's just as natural as a naked child. It's a good thing. Beyond that, I don't know.
Can you tell us a little bit about Mike, who wasn't able to be with us?
Mike was, oh God, Mike was such a powerful personality. I think he was a little tortured. His younger brother, who was the middle brother, Tim was the youngest one. He was one of our roadies. Fell off a rock at a place called Patrick's Point and was killed. And you know, he was loaded and got too close for it when he shouldn't have. So Mike was having, I think, some issues with that. So he was just like whacked out crazy sometimes. It was like he almost had a death wish. And he gave each of us, I think, at one point a ride in his Mini Cooper, which, you know, was just all crap. May now leave by the back entrance. Now! It was that scary because he just didn't seem to care. And yeah, a wild child. He I think I told you about the incident at the Mustache when he walked out to hurl. What's up? Am I okay? Am I okay?
Yeah, you keep going. You mentioned, sorry, bouncing back about the that if you had hit Atlanta or one more place, you guys would have taken off. What, in your guess, what do you think would have happened had that taken off?
I think there's a really good chance I'd be dead, because I was at the beginning, and I was pretty out of control, and with unlimited money, it's real easy to get in trouble. I mean, many have gone before, so it was kind of nice that financials kind of kept me. You know, I could use the stuff occasionally, but not get all strung out in it. And so alcohol became the easy path. I think we would have had pretty good success. There's seems to be no shortage of stuff from the song fountain between those two. I think maybe they might have been mentioned maybe in the same paragraph, if not in the same sentence, with John and Paul. You know, they're smart, literate men who, you know how to turn a phrase and get an idea across, sometimes in an abstract, you know, or a metaphor or something like that, and you don't really have to come right out and say it.
We have to drag you back downstairs because you guys only got an hour. I'm sorry. And the guy who's going to supply your drum kit wants to talk to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm available for any more if you actually think there is more.